Hi guys, my name is Josh, and I'm going to be talking about some recent estate sale finds. In particular, we have this book here from the Spanish-American War, which is 1898. This has some really interesting advertising, as well as this songbook from World War I, History and Rhymes of the Lost Battalion. I also have some interesting advertising materials from newspapers here I'm going to be talking about, as well as a menu from the U.S. Armed Forces and commissioning of a Gallatin boat. So something else I found recently was this book of war songs from the Spanish War, which was in 1898. And as you can see there, it's for associate societies and Americans, patriots of Syracuse, New York, and vicinity. Now, when I found this book, as you can see, it was kind of falling apart. And it was actually on the second day of a sale, and I was kind of amazed that no one had picked it up. But I think maybe I just found it like this, and it just looked like an old songbook. It wasn't very interesting, and then I kind of find the cover separately. Now, being from Syracuse, the really interesting thing about this book is not so much the songs, but there's a lot of local advertising listed inside the book. And even just within the binding of the book, the front and back page, there's some really great advertising. Lee and Green's brewed ginger beer, fadeless photographs. That's very modern to the late 1800s. Thompson's headache wafers. Kind of wonder what was in Thompson's headache wafers. This dry goods store, Bacon Chapel, was advertising that they're veterans, and kind of just as a form of customer outreach that we employ veterans, and we have veterans who shop at our store, and we welcome veterans. There's a ton of advertising inside the book that is really interesting, and some really great pictures. One of the funny things is you look at some of them, and they only have, there are some, very few of them have phone numbers, but the ones that do have phone numbers, the phone numbers are 3 digits. So, just like the Geico commercial with Alexander Graham Bell, the phone numbers were very, very short at this time. As you can see sort of on the front page there, you have electrical equipment, supplies, and the phone number is listed as phone 760. So there you go, you have a 3-digit phone number. And if you ever see anything that is advertising related and it has fewer digits, that's definitely something worth picking up. So yeah, this is just a really neat piece. Just, it does have a lot of songs in it, but the really interesting part is all the advertising pieces inside it. And I'd be really curious to take a look and see which of these, if any of these, are industrial buildings that are still, still there in Syracuse. And it was just really cool to see, okay, this is where Fund Life Association was, and Eureka Wall Plaster. So this is a really great item. The war songs are kind of interesting, but I think it's also ultimately the advertising inside it and being a local piece to Syracuse, New York, that is going to be interesting to someone. So these are a couple of really interesting books from World War II. Advertising Goes to War, Supplement 1 and 2. Now these were books released by the Bureau of Advertising, which was the American Newspaper Association. So the purpose of these books was to sell ads in newspapers and sort of market to companies and say, this is how other companies are marketing and supporting the war effort, and this is how they're doing it, and you should also buy some ads and support the war. As you can see there's a little statement from FDR. So these books are pretty interesting. They have, I think it's cool to have the advertising within the book itself to see the old ads, and this would definitely appeal to someone who collects old World War paper memorabilia. Some of the other contemporary World War pieces I've found are this naval drill list. I found that with this commissioning book for the USS Gallatin, which was in World War II. So that tells us that, this drill list here is from World War II. This commissioning book is really interesting. The commissioning is essentially a part of sending a boat out onto its first mission, I believe. And as you can see there, it says Destination Tokyo, kind of a different spelling of Tokyo than we're used to seeing. And it's a pretty plain book. You know, there isn't really anything that interesting. It kind of just has the schedule for the ceremony and a list of people. But this would still appeal to someone who collects World War II memorabilia and paper materials. You know, that's the thing that really makes it unique and kind of rare, is that this is something that would just be tossed away and forgotten. And, you know, it has some wear, but it's stood up pretty well for its age. This is another songbook here, History and Rhymes of the Lost Battalion. This book is from 1829. It's kind of a republication of a book that was released in 1819, so it really isn't that valuable just because there were so many of them made. But it's still pretty interesting. It has some neat drawings inside. This is a vintage menu for the U.S. Armed Forces Recreation Center for a steakhouse and snack bar. You can take a look at some of the prices here. I kind of like the drawing of the cattle with the different cuts of meat on there, which is kind of cute. This would mostly just appeal to someone, I think, as a piece of artwork that they would frame and put up. You know, I'm not sure which war it's from, but it's definitely old menus are something interesting thing you can look out for. You know, they're mostly just good for their artwork, and whatever, you know, city or event, or in this case, you know, military, whatever the related factor is, that's going to be sort of determining of the value of an old menu like this. Thanks for tuning in. Please subscribe, that way you'll be notified about my next video. In that video, I'm going to talk about these two books here. This one is a story behind a really famous automobile advertising piece. And this book, Better Financial Practices, is an internal document for employees of Edison Corporation and how to do accounting within the Edison Corporation. So that's pretty cool. I'm going to talk about these in that next video. Please subscribe, like the video, leave any comments that you might have, any questions. If you need any help identifying any items, I'd be happy to help with that. And until then, I'll see you guys.